Blog Talk Radio.
Hey everybody, Minister Dante Fortson here, back with another edition of The Breakdown. This is show number 4. I'm not sure what's going on with Blog Talk Radio. The timer on the computer is a little bit different than the timer that they give me on the audio prompts. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started. First, I want to tell you about the website, www.ironversusiron.com. That is the radio show website. The Breakdown is the morning show. The Iron versus Iron show will start July 1st, Monday night, 6 o'clock p.m. to 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I believe that's 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. That show starts on July 1st, and the first show will be King Wells versus Rob Skiba, discussing the second incursion of the Nephilim. Did the genes come through on the ark, or did angels return a second time to take the daughters of men and create the hybrids? So that's going to be a great show. Make sure you don't miss it. Again, July 1st, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Next thing, my website, ministerfortson.com, where you can find all the latest updates with everything I'm doing, including radio shows, books, random articles that I write. Really just basically anything going on with me. You can connect with me on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, pretty much anywhere, YouTube. And finally, indoorsurvivalist.com. Again, indoorsurvivalist.com. That is my prepper/survivalist website. As many of you know, I'm into prepping. I'm an active prepper in addition to doing ministry. So those are 3 websites you can get a hold of me on, or you can just go there and check stuff out if you don't need to contact me and you just want to read some interesting content. Also, subscribe. If you're on any one of those websites, subscribe. If you want to stay up to date, you'll get alerts immediately as soon as new information is put out. Actually, I think all of my alerts are scheduled to go out at between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 4 to 6, I believe, Eastern Time. So, around that time, you should get an update if I posted anything for the day. So make sure you subscribe using any of the email boxes below, or you can follow me on Twitter or Facebook or wherever. All right, As the Days of Noah Were, that was the second book I wrote. It has been on the Amazon bestsellers list now for 3 years in 3 different categories in the top 100. So check that out. Second edition will be finished sometime next month. Not sure exactly what date it will be, but it should be done sometime next month. It's coming along great. I have hours and hours and hours worth of video and audio content within the book itself. So it's not just a reading experience. It will be a visual and audio experience as well, more pictures, more information. Moving on to the 4-Hour Bible. The 4-Hour Bible is a Bible study series that I've been working on. Part of the proceeds from every sale goes to help find a cure for cancer through iVow Cure for Cancer. You can check them out on the website, www.4hourbible.com. Actually, if you go there right now, you'll see an email box where you can subscribe to be notified when the site officially opens. The site has been designed. It just has not been launched yet officially. So once that official launch occurs, you'll be able to go in. You'll be able to see which Bible study books are available. All of them are $5 each. And, again, part of the proceeds from every single sale goes to help find a cure for cancer through iVow Cure for Cancer. Met Joe. He survived lung cancer. Decided to, talk to him and do the project with him through a friend of mine at church. That project worked out great, and it's still an ongoing thing. So make sure you stay tuned and subscribe to that. Also, finally, before I get started, I want to encourage you to share the shows. When we do shows like this, myself and, others who do radio shows, we want people to hear them. If you like the shows, share them. Share them on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, email them. Tell people about them. But tell people about the shows because it helps get the word out, and it encourages us to keep doing it because then we can see that people like the shows. I know that everybody doesn't necessarily want to leave a comment all the time. I know I don't comment on stuff all the time, but I do share a lot of other people's content when I see something I like. So I ask that you share it. It's not mandatory, but it helps myself and others like me who do these radio shows. It helps us out big time. All right, so we're going to jump into the show today. Now, I want to talk a little bit about my prepping background before I get to it. The title of today's show is The One Prepping Item You Can't Afford Not to Have. And just to give you a little background on my experience with prepping, as I was raised as a prepper, I didn't realize it until more recently, but my grandfather, he grew up in hard times during the Great Depression. They were poor. He didn't finish high school. He told me he dropped out of school, I believe, in 6th or 7th grade because he had to help make money for the family. And so because he grew up with that mindset, he always had the mentality that he needed to store up for the future and be prepared for hard times. And living through the Great Depression, I guess, will reinforce that. And so as I was growing up, my grandfather taught me all kinds of things. We went hunting. We went fishing. He taught me how to, cook, kill, clean game. Same thing with fish. Taught me how to camp, build fires, mark landmarks, use visual landmarks so you can always find your way back to where you need to go. And, he just taught me those basic principles. Gardening was a huge thing every year. My grandfather always planted a garden. My grandmother always canned and preserved. She taught me that. My grandfather taught me how to cook, and my grandmother taught me how to sew. And so these were things that I learned growing up, and I never really understood why. Well, I had fun doing them, but I never understood exactly why they were teaching me these things. I just thought it was something that, people did. It was just, life to me at that point. And so as I got older and I started to understand more recently that these were all things that people who prepped did. And my grandfather was from the South, so they did a lot of hunting out there, and, they shot what they wanted to eat, and they cooked it, and, that sort of thing. They didn't grow up in a time where there were a ton of fast food restaurants, and even if there were, they didn't have money to go enjoy those luxuries. So they had to survive. And one thing I remember my grandfather would always do, and I always thought it was kind of strange, is he always kept these 1-gallon clear plastic jugs of rice. He had rice, flour, and beans, and he always had those, and he would never let them go empty. And so he would do that, and I always wondered why. And he told me, he was like, you always have to make sure you have this because it may come a time where you can't get to the store. He had, I believe, close to 100 gallons of water that he had, stockpiled. And so, again, this is just the mentality I grew up with. And so I've really embraced prepping over the last couple of years, and what I've embraced more so than just prepping is helping people who have a very small budget, because when I first started really taking an interest in the prepping, I started reading all these different sites, and to me they seemed kind of ridiculous because they had, blueprints for building bulletproof bomb shelters and, all these other expensive luxury things that most people really just can't afford. And so what I've decided to do, instead of taking that road and just going the average prepper route, buying $50 flashlights and stuff like that, I purposely tried to find ways to prep on smaller budgets to help people out that are kind of discouraged, because I have friends who are trying to get into prepping and they don't have a lot of money. And prepping isn't a big deal. I'll say this, prepping isn't as huge in the African-American community as it is in some other communities. And I actually do know a few African-American preppers, and which was a surprise to me because it came out in conversation. None of us knew that the other people did it. And so when it came out in conversation, we all discovered we had a lot in common. And so there are things that we splurge on, but I do focus on trying to get more for less. And that's what prompted this radio show today, because one thing I've been wanting to do for a long time, I actually been wanting to do this radio show for a long time. I was going to record it as a video, but it never did work out that way. So anyway, that's my background. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the show because that's enough build-up, I believe, for now. So this prepping item is very cheap. It's super affordable, and you can get it anywhere. It's baking soda. And baking soda, to me, is a must-have prepper item. If you go through the list of things you need when you begin to prep, you'll realize that baking soda will cover a good majority of the personal things you need. And I'm going to get into the list in a minute. but baking soda is very cheap. Recently, I bought, 1 pound boxes. They were 68 cents a piece at Target. Yeah, that's where I was, Target. At Walmart, they have some smaller boxes. Let me grab one real quick off of this shelf. Just hear me. All right, Walmart has half-pound boxes for 50 cents. I didn't see any 1 pound boxes at Walmart, but I'm sure they have them. But, yeah, Walmart, you can get a half-pound box for 50 cents. At Target, you can get a full pound box for 68 cents. I believe the 68 cents is a much better deal. Get twice as much for 18 cents more. All right, but basically, baking soda will cover a lot of your prepping needs, requirements, or, whatever else. All right, so let me to some of the things that baking soda is useful for. Now, it's useful as an odor absorber, and people use this all the time. They put it in the refrigerator, and this is how I always knew baking soda as was a box you put in the refrigerator. I never really knew what it was or what it did. I just know they put it in the refrigerator to keep the odor down. I didn't realize that it was edible. I wonder why they called it baking soda. I just assumed it was some kind of chemical, really a lot of my life, and I never asked. I just assumed it was a chemical because it was in the refrigerator as an odor absorber. But in addition to being a chemical, it's also edible, so it's not just strictly for odors. But, yeah, you can put it in your refrigerator. You can put it in your shoes to kill the shoe odor, and you can also put it in your kitty litter. I didn't know that until recently. I don't have a cat, so I have no use for, kitty litter. But, yeah, if you put it in your kitty litter, it keeps the smell down. Also, too, at it being 68 cents a box, 68 cents a pound, you could buy 10 pounds of this stuff for $6.80. 10 pounds of baking soda, and you can do the math from there, multiply by 10. Anyway, you can get 30 pounds of baking soda for under $20. And it's, just right around $20, probably just above $20, a couple cents above $20. You can get 30 pounds of baking soda. Anyway, I'm going to move on. You can use it for cooking, of course. It acts as a leavening agent in breads and muffins and different kinds of baking goods like that. If you add it to your omelets, it will make your omelets fluffier. That I didn't know until recently because I've never used baking soda in any of my omelets. Let's see. It makes game less gamey. So if you're a hunter and you kill deer or elk or moose or rabbit or whatever, it will make your meat less gamey if you rub it down in baking soda or add baking soda to it while you're cooking. Again, that's something I didn't know until recently. I don't know why. I don't believe we've ever used baking soda. My grandfather liked the gamey taste, and so when we cooked, the meat always tasted a little gamey, and so, I don't know, I just grew up eating gamey meat, and so I kind of got used to it, so I never really thought about, using anything to neutralize the gaminess. My mom doesn't eat gamey food. She hates it, and so, yeah, it never came up. It neutralizes acid. This is something I thought was interesting because it's alkaline, and a lot of people use it to adjust the pH in lots of different things, such as houseplants, and I'll get down to the other one. I don't want to jump ahead of it, but, yeah, we'll say it neutralizes acid. I'm going to be more specific about that in a minute because you can use it within yourself to neutralize acids inside your body. Toothpaste. This is something I learned when I was in jail. They give you baking soda to use as toothpaste in jail. And basically what you do is you dip your toothbrush in the water, and then you dip it into the baking soda and you brush your teeth with it. And I had never known that. I had noticed that a lot of toothpaste brands were putting baking soda in the toothpaste itself, but I didn't know that you could use baking soda itself as toothpaste. Also, if you mix it with water, you can use it as a mouthwash. That's something else I learned in jail. Because jail is a completely different environment. It's almost like a survivalist-type environment. It's not as bad as prison, but it's still bad. Yeah, you can use it as mouthwash. The other thing we used it for was a deodorant. What you do is you put a little bit of water in there, in the baking soda, and you let the water evaporate out over a day or two. If you put too much water in it, it's going to take a while to evaporate. But you want to put just enough water so you get like a paste. And once the water evaporates to where it turns into something like a paste, then you can rub it under your arms and use it as a deodorant and stay fresh all day when you don't have any sticks or bars or, whatever you use for deodorant sprays. Next, you can use it as a shampoo. You can wash your hair with it. That's pretty self-explanatory. Not much to that. I'll move on. You can use it as an antiseptic. This kind of goes hand in hand with the mouthwash, and also I'll come back down to some of the more specific antiseptic uses in a minute. And this is where I'll come back to the neutralizing acid. Heartburn, acid reflux, that sort of thing. You can mix it with water and you can drink it, but from what I hear, you don't want to drink it in large amounts. I did not know this, but you can actually overdose on baking soda by taking too much. So you want to use it very sparingly if you're using it for heartburn or as an antiseptic. Most people know, too, that milk works for that if you don't want to, use baking soda for that sort of thing. Milk or anything calcium, milk, ice cream, all that stuff reduces heartburn and acid reflux and heartburn. Now, it has medical applications as well, which is interesting. This I didn't know. It reduces the spread of white phosphorus in bullet wounds. So for those of you out there buying those medical kits and other surgical kits and things like that, make sure you add baking soda to your list. Now, if you're preparing for any kind of situation where you think the economy is going to collapse and you think there's going to be gunfire and you're going to get shot or, whatever the situation may be, people are prepping for lots of different things. Make sure you have baking soda on hand because it can clean out bullet wounds. Now, something that I didn't know, I have a 2-year-old daughter, and when she was younger, we received a lot of gifts at the baby shower, and one of the things that was included was called gripe water. And I had no clue what gripe water was, but she was crying one night, and me and her mother were trying to get her to quiet down. And so we looked and we read the label on the gripe water, and so we gave it to her, and she calmed down. Like within a matter of minutes, it felt like instantly because she'd been crying for a while. And so this was today actually, I found out that baking soda is one of the ingredients in gripe water. I'm not sure if it works by itself, but it's definitely one of the ingredients. So as you can see, baking soda has a ton of different applications. All right, let's continue. I got about 10 minutes left. Cleaning. Now, I had known that baking soda could be used for cleaning for a while. That's part of the reason I thought it was a chemical as well, and it couldn't be digested. My grandmother would clean with baking soda sometimes. She didn't do it all the time, but she would do it a lot. You can use baking soda to remove tarnish from your silver. So, again, for 50 cents, 68 cents, whatever you want to spend, whether you get a half pound or a full pound, baking soda has a ton of applications in your survival. And I still have more for you, but I just want to point out how many different things baking soda can be used for. And I actually do not have enough time on this show to go through them all. When you go back and if you want to look at the show notes will be posted on IndoorSurvivalist.com and they'll be posted on MinisterFortson.com. In the show notes, I have a link to a book on Amazon that lists over 500 uses for baking soda, and I also found a few more books that will tell you hundreds of uses. I believe Arm & Hammer put out a baking soda book that tells you at least 100 uses for baking soda, I believe, in the kitchen. So these books are great resources, and again, I'll have a link to those in the show notes. Just go to IndoorSurvivalist.com or MinisterFortson.com. All right, now moving on. It can be used as a biopesticide. Now, this is great for all of you preppers and survivalists out there that are growing your food organically and you're worried about pesticides and, that sort of thing, putting on your plants. You don't want to, ingest pesticides. Baking soda is actually registered with the Environmental Protection Agency as a fungicide. So it does control the growth of fungus. Also, I read this, I don't know from personal experience, but if you sprinkle baking soda around your tomatoes, it's supposed to make your tomatoes sweeter. So maybe you want to try it. I don't know. It won't do any harm to your tomatoes, but it's supposed to make them sweeter. Also, if you sprinkle it in the cracks of your cement in your driveways, it's supposed to prevent the growth of weeds. So you may want to give that a try, too, if you're having trouble with weeds growing through your concrete. Next is an interesting one. Baking soda can be used as a fire extinguisher. It's used in non-liquid chemical extinguishers in, I believe, Canada and some other places, maybe even here in the U.S., and it's also good for putting out grease fires. Now, grease fires, if you've ever had one, you know you don't throw water on a grease fire and you don't throw water on an electrical fire. But baking soda can be used to put these out. So that's something you want to keep in mind if you ever have one of those fires and you have baking soda handy. I think that was the last point I wanted to make on that. And let's continue. Laundry. If you pay attention to some of the new laundry soaps that are coming out, some of them say, with baking soda. If you add baking soda to your laundry, it's supposed to make your clothes smell fresher, and it's supposed to make your whites whiter. So I know some people don't like to use bleach at all because they can't stand the smell of bleach. I don't mind the smell of bleach, but I didn't know that baking soda, exactly what implications baking soda had to the laundry, but that's what it does. It makes your clothes smell fresher, and it makes your whites whiter. Next, you can actually unclog drains if you mix baking soda with vinegar. If you've never done this before, what it does is it creates a reaction. It starts to bubble. But you can use it to unclog your drains. And that chemical reaction between baking soda and vinegar will also produce carbon dioxide, which you can feed to your plants. Plants thrive off of carbon dioxide. They convert it to oxygen. So if you want to make your plants grow bigger, you feed them carbon dioxide, and it's not as effective as buying a CO2 machine or, some of the other stuff people do when they're growing their own food and they want to produce high yields. But you can do that if you're on a budget, vinegar and baking soda. I already mentioned that it helps control weed growth. Finally, the final one I'm going to cover today is you can use it as a pain reliever. Now, I didn't know this, but if you rub it on insect bites, bee stings, and sunburns, baking soda will relieve that pain. And to me, it's just interesting how many uses baking soda has. Now, from what I understand, I did a brief research on this. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate, which is the scientific name, sodium bicarbonate. It's a very mild form of salt, and it does have a slightly salty taste to it if you taste it. So I would suggest that you stockpile baking soda. And again, the list that I've read off to you is not the complete usages for baking soda. These are just, I didn't even number these. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and check and see how many I read off to you. I read off 18 different uses for baking soda. But baking soda, again, has over 500 different applications for those of you who are into prepping and you're on a super small budget. I know toothpaste can be expensive to stockpile. Soap can be expensive to stockpile. Deodorant, mouthwash, those sorts of things. But you can cover all that just by buying boxes of baking soda. So that's really it on this show. So I want you guys to ring in, give me your feedback. If you know any other uses for baking soda, feel free to send a message. You can contact me on Facebook. I'm usually not on Twitter, so don't tweet me. But you can send me a message on Facebook. You can send me an email. You can leave a comment on any of the sites. Also, you can leave a comment on YouTube. Or if you find something interesting and you make a video, post a video reply to this on YouTube, and I'll go ahead and I'll approve it as a video reply. And what else before I go? I think that's about it. That's all I really want to cover for now. So, again, leave your feedback. Thank you guys for listening. Reminder to subscribe so you can stay up to date, and share this audio, this video, whatever formats you see or hear it in, because I changed it to a bunch of different formats and I put it online. Whatever you see or hear it in, make sure you share it. Make sure you tell other people, because it encourages me to keep doing these and it helps get the word out. So until next time, be blessed.